Okay, Unit 1, Lesson 6 deals with translating expressions. And at the end of this video, hopefully you could say something like, I can translate words into algebraic expressions. Alright, looking here, we have our four operations, and what we're going to do is simply list some words that mean the same thing as that symbol. So, for example, this is an addition sign, so we could say, whoops, there we go. Alright, we could say that that is addition is one word we could see when we do this, or add it to. Okay, we also have learned in the previous lessons that we could use the words the sum of. Alright, and I am going to put some parentheses around the term the sum of, and I'll talk about why I did that later on. Alright, we could also use the word increase. Increase, that should be an S. Okay, and this is by no means a comprehensive list. This is just a few of the common ones we run into. Alright, there may be more along the way. Alright, so we have addition, added to, sum of, increase, increased by is usually what we say. Alright, and there are more. So let's move to the next one, subtraction. Okay. Alright, we could say subtract it from. Let me erase that and start over here. Alright, subtract it from. We could use the word less. We could say decreased by. We could say less than. Alright, for addition, we could say more than. Alright, and the answer in subtraction is the difference, so we could say the difference of. And the difference of, I'm going to go ahead and put parentheses around that. I'll talk about why in a minute. I'm also going to do something else. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, that word from will tell us to switch orders. So I'm going to put that little arrow there. And same thing with the word than. Alright, that's going to tell us to switch orders. Okay, and again, that'll make more sense as we go through our examples here. Alright, moving on to the next one. I'm going to change color just so that we can get separation for our eyes here. So we have multiplication. Alright, and we could say multiplied by. Okay, times. Alright, of and the product of. Okay, now just like we did before, I'm going to add some things here. For example, the product of, we'll put parentheses around, and of, what I'm going to do is change the color really quick, and we're going to just kind of hint at the fact that this is usually used for fractions. Okay, also we have the word twice, which specifically means times 2. Okay, we also have, which falls into this category, squared. Alright, which will refer to times itself. Alright, and then the last term that we have here is division, and typically you'll see divided by. Alright, and that's really kind of it, besides for the main one, which is the quotient of. You know, sometimes when we speak, we say, you know, how many times does that go into that? Alright, however, we usually don't see that in written form. And then I'm also going to include the word fractions, which we saw up here. All right. Usually when we multiply by a fraction, we'll use like what's 1/2 of a number. And that's usually when we use the word of, is when we're dealing with fractions. But fractions by themselves really are just division. It's just division. Okay, so let's go ahead and do some examples here. We're asked to write an expression, all right, which shows the number of days in 3 weeks. All right, so the number of days in 1 week is 7. We want to know the number of days in 3 weeks. So we would do 3 times 7. All right, moving on to B. B is set up just like A. It says the number of days in X weeks. Okay, so in order to make an algebraic expression, we're going to have a variable. All right, we should have a number and an operation. In this case, the number of days in a week is still 7, just like before, but instead of multiplying it by 3, we're multiplying it by x. So we would say there's 7x days in X amount of weeks. Okay, some more translations here. There's quite a few of them, but they're going to go really, really quick. All right, we have less than, 7 less than x. Less means to subtract. Than tells me that I have to switch the order. All right, so normally when we translate from left to right exactly the way we see it. So normally the 7 would be first and the x is second. But the word than switches order. So it's x minus 7. All right. Up next, we have the sum of x and 5. If you don't know what sum of means, you could always look up to the top and find where it is. Okay, I see it right there. It has parentheses around it. Not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to translate it in order. X is first, 5 is second. There's a plus sign in the middle. For C, we have the product of 9 and y. All right, product means multiplication, and we show that 9y. Okay, when we have variables and numbers together, we always want the number first, followed by the variable, and you don't need a sign if it's multiplication. There's no need to put a dot. We no longer use x's for multiplication, so stop doing that. Okay, you're either going to use a dot, a parenthesis, or in this case, nothing, because it shows multiplication. All right. Up next, the difference of, that's subtraction. So whatever comes first is going in this spot, and what comes first is twice the number. Anytime you see a number, that means your variable. So twice the number, we'll just call that variable x. So I'm going to put a little key off this side here that says a number equals x. Okay, anytime you see that term. Alright, and then it says and 5, so there you go. Alright, so this shows the difference of, there's your difference, twice a number, 2 times x, and 5. Okay, now, this is where it gets tricky. Notice that D and E are pretty much exactly the same, with the exception of the difference of, in the original problem, is in front, followed by twice. In this problem, the twice moves off to the front. Alright, here's what happens. We have twice the difference of a number and 5. Okay, so to go back up to the top for a second, you see all these things we put parentheses around, the sum of, the difference of, the product of, the quotient of. The general rule goes like this. Anytime you have an operational word in front of those words, the difference of, the sum of, the quotient of, the product of, that difference or sum or product or quotient needs to be listed in parentheses. These two problems say very different things. Okay, so it's important to understand that these parentheses need to be there, and the reason why they're there is because there's an operation in front of the words the difference of. Alright, that operation is twice, which is multiplication by 2. Alright, we have 3 more to go. Example F, the quotient of x and 4, quotient means division, x and 4, increased by 7. The way we show division in algebra is by setting up a fraction. Okay, you have to get good at fractions. So x over 4 plus 7 is the same thing there. All right. Example G. I have twice the sum of. So again, I see this key word, the sum of, or key phrase, the sum of. Twice the sum of. Sum means add. I need parentheses because an operation comes in front of it. X and 12. Alright? And finally, we have 5 more than 3 times a number. This is a typo. Okay? Now, to be 100% correct here, the word than is one of those words that switch order. Alright, so we should say 3 times a number plus 5. More than means 5. However, in addition, the order is not important. Okay, whereas in subtraction it is. Alright, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Alright, if I did 2 plus 3 and 3 plus 2, I would get 5 in both cases. If I did 3 minus 2 and 2 minus 3, I would not get the same answer. I would get 1 and negative 1. Okay, so that's why in addition the order doesn't really matter, but in subtraction it really does. So if you make that mistake on this, you're going to be okay. If you make it over here, nope, where was it at? Sorry, up one. If you make it here, you're going to be wrong. Alright, so be careful with your translations. And finally, like we did before, after this video, I can go ahead and write your I can statement. If there's something you still don't know how to do, you're going to go ahead and write down one of the following suggestions on how to learn that material again. Rewatch a video, ask a friend, or whatever. We'll see you tomorrow.